This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, is Richard Halls.
Hello, everyone.
And returning for a second go is Amanda Robinson. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, thank you for having me back again.
No, all good. Just want to mention the fact that you write for Eastern Kicks, the website, and we're going to put a link in the footnotes to that so people can sort of read some of your work. You cover lots of little things. I mean, I did like your little bio in there about sort of discovering sort of Eastern cinema, like Jackie Chan and John Woo and things like that.
They were like my gateway.
Mm-hmm.
That and J-horror, because I'm like the right age for the J-horror boom in the 90s. So yeah, those and Hong Kong action were my way in.
Yeah, well, you're in the right place, that's for sure. Cool. Okay, so this week we're going to kick off with Seann William Scott in Bad Man. Then we have a French film called Little Jaffna, and then Armand Assante in Don Q. After that, we've got a film called Purgatory Jack and Resurrection Road. After that, we've got The Invisible Raptor. The Occupant and Unsinkable round out our 8 movies for tonight. Our short shot is Howl at the Dead, and our DTV throwback is Perfect Target, starring Daniel Bernhardt and a couple of other well-known people. Okay, without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is Bad Man. In Colt Lake, Tennessee, Deputy Sam Evans tackles a meth epidemic, but he is sidelined on the arrival of Bobby Gaines, a state task force agent whose no-nonsense tactics rattles egos and cages alike. Unfortunately, Steve isn't here to help us with this one because he watched this before he went on holiday. We had to sort of push back the review because of an embargo, but it did give us, the rest of us, a chance to see it, which is great. So, Amanda, what did you make of Bad Man?
I wasn't completely sure of it, just because I don't know whether it wants to be like a comedy or an action film. But I did actually have fun with it. It is just total nonsense, and I mean that in a good way. I really like Seann William Scott. He's probably the most entertaining part of the film for me, actually.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's playing it quite straight in this, isn't he? He's there's no sort of bells and whistles to his performance, but he's just playing this sort of super confident, sort of no nonsense guy kind of thing. And everyone else looks silly compared to him.
Yeah, it's weird because he is sort of playing Stifler, but like a serious Stifler.
Yeah,
which is weird, but I did enjoy it. The bit with the hamster, though, I don't think I've never been like that tense in a while. When he put the hamster in the kitchen, oh god, I nearly died when he hit the switch.
Oh dear. Rich, what did you make of Bad Man?
It wasn't what I was expecting. I was anticipating a kind of a straightforward action comedy kind of thing, and this is much more of a I would say it's in the style of the Coen brothers, small town crime comedy kind of thing with a bunch of eccentric kind of characters sort of occupying town. It's not Fargo, but it's leaning in that sort of direction. You probably could say a bit of other Coen brothers stuff in there as well. But yeah, I thought the characters are quite interesting. That say the Seann William Scott, who I never liked American Pie, but I've kind of liked Seann William Scott in most other things that I've seen him in, including some straight performances. Like there's like a movie where he plays like a serial killer called I think it's Bloodline, which he was really good in. And
did we cover that, or was that on Sky? On
might have.
Netflix?
I think I don't know if it was originally on Netflix, but we might have talked about it.
That was the one where he's basically just a normal guy, sort of, with wife and 2 kids kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then sort of sneaking out at night to kill people or something like that.
Yeah, and his wife becomes pregnant, and this sort of triggers something, and all that sort of thing. Yeah, it was good. It's a good film. And he's good in this. Like you say, yeah, there was definitely he's playing it straight, but delivering lots of comical lines at the same time. So it's it's kind of more of a deadpan performance. He kind of says it's kind of like Deadpool kind of comments and stuff that he would say. But yeah, he's kind of mixing it up a bit in the small town. They're trying to find out who killed why someone was killed, and we know who did it because we see it at the start of the movie, and so there's not an element of that much mystery to it, but it's kind of how they get it. It's more of a portrait of these characters. So there's like the sort of deputy sheriff, I think, is kind of the main one, and there's a love interest that he's got and some issues. Yeah, there's various things going on with the characters, and it's all quite amusing. It's a bit dark in places and a bit rude in places, but so yeah, I overall I liked it.
Do you think? I mean, I don't know. There's definitely this sort of contrast between his character and everyone else, and some of it just rubbed me up the wrong way a little bit. I thought they sort of really pushed the eccentricity of the other characters a bit too far. Like at the beginning when they pull overs just so they can sort of play guitar for a bit when they're supposed to be on their way to work.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's all very I mean, you got this gang,
but it's just too, exactly.
And the gang's got a banjo, just sort of playing blues music on the banjo while they're sort of just messing with this guy.
Pushes it a little bit too far, and then you got, when they find out who. When Seann William Scott turns up, and they're, even the sheriff's like sort of fawning all over him, and but I don't know, it just felt awkward at times. But again, other times it was great. I must admit, that whole bit when he goes to the bar undercover to get to know that guy, and he starts a bar fight just so he can sort of get the two of them thrown into jail together and all that sort of stuff. Well, that was all great.
There's some good plot developments and stuff, and so there's certain aspects of Seann William Scott's character is not as it seems to be and stuff, which is it's all good. I didn't like it as much as I wanted to, but I was engaged and interested, and I like the characters, most of whom apart from him, I'm unfamiliar with pretty much everyone in the cast. I couldn't think of anything I'd seen them in, but I thought they were all good. So if you go in knowing kind of that you're going to get something a bit more of a Coen style quirkiness than the sort of straightforward action movie, you're probably going to be on firmer footing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what are we going to score it? Over to Amanda.
I think I'll probably give it a 6. I had a good time watching it, so I think a 6 is pretty fair.
The way I tend to score stuff is a 6 is, I enjoyed watching it. I can't see myself watching it again.
Yeah, I think that probably sums up how I feel about it.
Yeah. A 7 is something. I would watch it again. An 8 is something. 8 and 9 is basically me saying, I want that in my personal collection. But 6 is perfectly fine. Yeah, and Rich.
My rating's slightly different. I'm probably sort of one difference. So for me, like a 7 is like perfectly good, decent. I might watch it again, not so sure. I think there's enough in here that's novel, and I think if it was a bit more derivative, I would have said 6. But it's quite original, as original as this sort of thing can be. So I'm going to say 7 for this.
Okay, no worries. I'm also going to give it a 6. So 2 6s and a 7 for Badman. Go check it out. Our next film is Little Jaffna. Michael is a French Tamil police officer who is sent into Little Jaffna, an area of Paris occupied by Tamil Sri Lankans, where a gang uses organized crime to fund rebels back home. Michael has to walk a fine line between his heritage, family, his duty, and the friendships he develops within. This one, I had no idea what I was going to be watching with this one, Amanda. It's
Yeah.
I didn't know that Jaffna was a place in Sri Lanka for a start, and that the title actually refers to like a little neighborhood within Paris. But I really, really did like this. It's solid, sort of gangs of London kind of affair, but sort of concentrated on this
Yeah.
one community. Michael is a guy who's he's been brought up in France. His family's got connections to the Tamil Tigers, the rebels back in Sri Lanka, and his bosses want to use that to infiltrate him into this gang who are sort of collecting money on behalf of the rebels and sending it back. I thought it was great. Yeah, the music was great. The cinematography was it's really powerful and punchy all the way through. And we got this guy. He got the whole thing of him having to sort of they're testing him and things like this, keep asking him questions about his home life, eventually
Yeah.
even sort of interrogating him, sort of stripping him down. And we see what happened to the last guy who failed that interrogation. It was pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was really, really solid. How about
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, I'm the same. I actually really loved it. I loved how vibrant it was.
Yeah,
Even though
exactly.
it's set in this kind of impoverished area of Paris that, like, I'm the same as you. I didn't know this area existed, but it's so full of like life and colour. It's just not the way you would expect it to be shown. And I actually did really love the lead actor. Seeing him, like, he's someone who's raised as a European, but he's now getting this connection and a kinship to the place he was born and the place his family's from that he hasn't managed to get.
Yeah, it's like
And you can see
that whole
him,
thing, isn't it?
yeah,
Like, you know, when the Sri Lankans eat, they use their hands to eat, and he's using the
yeah,
fork, and they're like having a go at him. I said, no, no, you're from Sri Lanka. You use it, use your hands, use your fingers to eat. He has to sort of learn how to do that. It's
yeah,
very interesting. Yeah.
yeah. I just really loved it. I don't really have a fault with it. I think it's just so well done, and
It's
it really just kind of invites you to look at an area that you don't really see a lot,
mhm.
particularly with French film.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was refreshing to see a French film which actually showed the police in a good light for once as well,
Yeah,
because they're so cynical about their own sort of police forces and stuff,
yeah,
So that was actually really good. Yeah, the whole yeah, even the music. There's a bit where there's a whole chase sequence when Michael has to break up a fight, and it's actually his sort of way into the gang, and when he's getting chased down the street, and the music is just really, really good during that sequence. Really good film. Also, it had that sort of very harrowing sort of message at the end about the sort of fate of the rebels and things in
yeah.
reality and what had happened. I thought, it's certainly has parallels with other parts of the world. Yeah, this was a lovely surprise actually. I absolutely love this one. What are you going to score it?
I think probably a 9 because I really did like it.
Wow.
But again, I
Okay.
don't really have anything bad to say about it or anything negative. I just really
Hmm.
did end up enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, I'm giving it an 8 anyway. So there we go. It's an 8 and a 9. It's a long time since we've had a 9 on this show, I think. Yeah, for Little Jaffna. Go check it out. Our next film is Don Q. Don Q is an aging Little Italy resident and carries some clout in the neighborhood and aims to restore its values. The return of a ruthless ex-con, though, challenges Q's setup, embroiling him and a loyal recruit in a turf war over the area. This is it's one of those films we get every now and again, which showcases a particular actor. So this is Armand Assante's sort of moment in the spotlight. And he plays a guy. You're supposed to think that he's like a Don kind of thing, some sort of aging mafia boss. Yeah, everyone sort of all the shops in the neighborhood sort of look up to him and respect, show him respect and all this. But none of the younger guys have a clue who he is or why they should care, you know. And eventually you realize that actually this is just some guy who's gone a bit crazy. He's gone off his meds. He's been watching too many mafia films. He's got a whole stack of things like Casino and Goodfellas, Donnie Brasco, all this sort of stuff. And he's watching all this, and it sort of informs his sort of view of the world. And he gets this young chef involved in it as well, and then this other guy, as I said at the beginning, comes back after spending time in prison and starts throwing his weight around as well. There is a little bit of humor to it, admittedly, but it is one of these things where you can just sort of the whole thing just sort of spiraling down the sinkhole as it goes on, until he's basically confronted with his delusions at the end, and even then he sort of just doubles down on them. It's it's a crazy little film, I must admit. Not sure how much I liked it. It did remind me a bit of Gotti, basically, in the performances. Lots of Italian sort of swear words and things, and sort of like insults coming out of the woodwork.
Didn't he play Gotti as well once?
He did, I think. Yeah, I think he did. Yeah. But I'm thinking of the John Travolta one.
Yeah, the John Travolta one.
Yeah. Now, Rich, wasn't Armand Assante in Diamond Cartel?
He was.
He was, yeah. That's what I kept thinking of him in that.
And I also watched him recently in the spoof Fatal Instinct from the 90s.
Yeah, that's
by Carl
he's
Reiner,
good in that.
He's great in that. He's really, really good. He's very good. It was a good casting choice for that comedy. Better than I would say. I would say he's better in that than Liam Neeson is in The Naked Gun. He's really good. He's one of those guys. He's been around the block, hasn't he? I mean, he's done all sorts over the years. He's dabbled in DTV action and as well as sort of very serious dramas, Mambo Kings, all that sort of stuff.
There's a few familiar faces in this, and they're actually sort of playing themselves as if there's a these actors who live in the area who've been in films like Goodfellas and things like that, and people keep coming up to them with scripts and sit in the street, and they sort of get a little bit embroiled into the drama a bit as well. It's if you like Armand Assante, then it's probably worth a look. It wasn't really for me, I don't think, overall, but I did like the look of it. It's very well filmed, very colourful. But yeah, it ends up being this sort of drama about a guy who's off his medication. Yeah, and it's like you end up sort of pitying him rather than feeling anything else. So on that note, I'm going to have to give this a 6 out of 10. But if that floats your boat, go check it out. Our next film is Purgatory Jack. Troubled singer Vivacious awakens in purgatory after a suicide attempt. There she finds herself hunted, her status of being not quite dead, not quite alive, making her a valuable commodity. She turns to undead detective for hire, Purgatory Jack, who may be able to help locate her dead mother. So there are some films...
Yeah, I think what is probably the best one.
You have to wonder at the credentials of some filmmakers. The thing is, I've never made a film in my life. Yeah, I paraphrase School of Rock when I say, those that can do, those that can't become critics. basically. So, you know, anything I say should be taken with a pinch of salt, but I do question the credentials of the people that made this film. For example, the first 3 or 4 minutes of screen time is the camera being completely static as the main character, Purgatory Jack, just mopes around his apartment, putting on records. The camera doesn't move. He's just sort of like shuffling around. The lighting's awful. I'm thinking, what? Why? Why are we doing this? And there's a scene later on which is similar, where Vivacious is basically waiting for Jack to do something, and they're both sitting in these armchairs looking at each other, or he's staring off to space and she's getting all the huff, and it goes on for like minutes of screen time, and I'm thinking, why are we having to watch this? There's
Some
other
of it is
ways.
just,
There's other ways to sort of convey the passage of time, to sort of let us know that she's just sat there, instead of actually just literally making us wait with her. It was awful. Everything about this was awful. It was underwritten. I don't know where I don't know where to start. I don't know where to finish. Basically, let's get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them it. They're very ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it worked, some of it didn't. I was surprised about putting like a cool noir detective and a feminist punk together, which
Yeah,
maybe sort of. But I think it bites off a little bit more than it can actually chew, because it seems to be trying to weave in ideas about the afterlife and death and being a bit deeper about it, but it doesn't seem to. Yeah, it doesn't seem to go anywhere.
no, it really doesn't.
Thrown at you, but without actually.
There's a whole subplot to do with a gang of biker cannibals being led by this woman, and all the power shifting going on there. There's a hospital where people turn up with appendages, and again, this whole thing wasn't really explained very well what was happening. I'm guessing there was some sort of barter system that if you turn up with somebody's leg, they'll do a bit of surgery for you or something. It wasn't very sort of clear what the hell was going on there.
Yeah, there was like that girl at the start who's got a new arm, but she still got her arms. I don't know when she was going to put the new arm on. Like,
oh, that's right, yeah, exactly. It was all just a real mess. There was one good effect. There's one of the sort of bad guys gets run over, and we see him like lying on the road, and he's basically, his torso and his legs are like about a foot apart, with this sort of tire track going in between. I thought that was actually a pretty decent effect, I must admit.
Yeah.
But there's other stupid stuff like Jack and this woman who was leading the motorbiker gang, but for some reason decided not to, and has got a samurai sword for some reason, and they burst into this bar as if they're going to sort of like do this whole shootout kind of thing, and the next time you see them, they're both been captured, and it's like, it's just such an anticlimax, the whole thing.
So why was he like? He's supposed to be like a detective guy, but he works in a bar.
Mm-hmm.
What is this guy? But he also just sits around his house.
Literally just sits around playing records, and he's got like a dozen clocks on the wall for some reason.
Yeah, collects watches. There was a lot.
I'm sure it makes sense in the director's head, because I think the director and the writer are the same person. But yeah, to me, no, this just I've seen films like this, so I know there is a market for it. So maybe people do like this sort of stuff, but it just wasn't for me at all. So if I was going to score it, I got to give this a 5 out of 10. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think I'd probably say a 5. I mean, again, like I said, it is very ambitious. But I just there was too much going on.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. So on that note, 2 5s for Purgatory Jack. Go check it out. Our next film is Resurrection Road. During the American Civil War, an elite squad of 6 black soldiers led by ex-slave Barabbas have been sent on a suicide mission to infiltrate a Confederate fort deep in the Arkansas woods and blow up its long-range guns, therefore altering the course of the war. Now, Amanda, obviously that synopsis only tells half the story.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a good thing, because what happens is a decent surprise. Basically, this starts off like a typical contemporary made film about the Civil War, about westerns and all that sort of stuff. I don't know how you feel about westerns, but shooting them on digital just does not look right.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Western fan anyway.
Mm.
There's the odd one over the years, but it just doesn't appeal to me for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
But this I liked. It reminded me of that one, Overlord.
Yeah.
Although that one's obviously a Second
That's
World War
Second World
film,
War,
it
but
just
Mhm.
suddenly
It,
turned into a Carpenter-style horror film.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, another touchstone would be From Dusk Till Dawn,
Yeah,
for example. But it is, for the first good 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you have no idea what this is going to turn into. It plays it completely straight.
yeah,
That they have a sort of run in with an enemy patrol, that sort of thing. They lose a few guys. There's a massacre that they sort of come upon, and sort of meet a couple of people. It's all that. But then we sort of, as soon as somebody starts going, don't go into the woods at night and all this sort of stuff, it starts to sort of turn into something else, which I like. Yeah, there's even a sort of touch of Predator about it. That whole bit with the when Hawkins gets killed in Predator, and they have to sort of
yeah,
search for him. All that, and when it's using the trees, all that sort of stuff. It all works. Yeah, so I think this does work overall.
yeah.
They saved a bit of money for their sort of blood squibs and sort of gore effects and things like that, which I thought was really good. The costumes are pretty decent. It does. The trouble is early on, because there's not many people. They haven't got like a whole cast of extras or anything like that. So it does feel a bit. Their sort of military camps feels a bit sort of underpopulated at the beginning and things like that.
Mhm.
But other than that, I thought they did a decent job of building this up and keeping sort of the main character. Is it Omar Epps who played
I know it's a guy called Malcolm Goodwin. I think
Oh,
he's
right.
in Reacher. He's in the first
Oh, okay.
series. And
Right.
I think he was in that one, iZombie, if I remember
Oh, yeah.
correctly.
Yeah.
I really liked him actually. I thought he
Yeah.
had like a really good kind of leading man thing going on, but it was like two separate leading men.
Yeah.
There's that kind of the Revolutionary War side of it, and then
But it,
suddenly it turns into like an 80s action hero where he's just spouting one-liners.
yeah, but at the same time, they do a good job of sort of keeping him from being too likable.
Yeah.
He's very bitter. He's had a hard life and that. And then we get Michael Madsen coming into it as well, which
Mhm.
is an extra element. So yeah, I thought this was pretty solid, I must admit.
Yeah, same. I also really liked the Native American girl. I
Yes,
kind of liked that clash of cultures they had.
yeah, that was
There was that bit
she was
about
good.
the Judas tree in the Bible. Like to
Hmm.
them, it's a sort of negative thing because it's the Judas tree, but to her, it's like about protection.
Hmm.
But then at the end, the Bible saves her, and then the flower from the tree saves him. Like I love that.
Yeah.
That was a nice little touch.
There was a funny line in it when one of them sort of going, "Oh, they call it the Judas tree because that's the tree that Judas hung himself from,"
Yeah,
and he goes, "What? He came to America to get
yeah.
to hang himself." Thought it was very good. Yeah, so this was a very nice surprise overall. How are you going to score it?
I think I'd probably give it a 7.
Hmm.
Um, I kind of wish it was a bit longer. I would have liked to have spent a bit more time with all the characters.
Yeah.
But I did like it. It was a nice surprise.
Yeah, it is one of those sort of attrition films where you start with sort of 6 or 7 guys and it's sort of you start losing them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree. 2 sevens for Resurrection Road. Go check it out. Our next film is The Invisible Raptor. An amusement park paleontologist and a hapless security guard team up to stop an invisible raptor from wreaking havoc in their small town. This is ridiculous, Rich. I think that is unequivocal, but at the same time, it's kind of fun. There are moments where the whole thing is just spinning its wheels. The paleontologist guy, who's actually called Alan Grant, same as Sam Neill's character in Jurassic Park.
Well, it's Grant Walker.
There's a Grant,
yes.
Grant, yeah.
The Grant
Professor,
is a reference to
Professor
Park, yeah.
Grant, yeah. So, and but they spend so much time just hanging around his, well, I don't know, office or the his area of the park before actually going out and trying to do something. But there is some good dialogue in here. There are some nice little moments, I must admit. But the whole thing of having an invisible velociraptor, there's a bit at the beginning with Sean Astin as well as this sort of like scientist. That bit was quite funny, I must admit. I don't know. I'm sort of like torn between kind of liking it and then just sort of scoffing at the whole absurdity of it. What did you make of it?
I loved it. It's one of my favorite films of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. So it was completely not what I thought. I thought it was going to be like a
asylum film.
Well, not even well, maybe asylum, but sort of maybe less than that. Maybe I was thinking like micro budget, like Mark Polonia, sort of Cocaine Shark and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Kind of just really silly title and sort of silly. But this has got a budget. It's not got the biggest budget in the world, but it looks it's really well shot. The cinematographer was a guy called Brian Kloss, who's actually done a load of Randall Emmett, Bruce Willis movies, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. But I think he gives the film a real quality, decent budget look. The cast is mostly people I'm not familiar with, but like you say, we get a cameo by Sean Astin, and there's a couple of other people who are sort of familiar faces, including I can't remember what his name is. Hang on, Richard Reel. He's a character actor. I didn't know his name until checking the credits, but I recognised him instantly. He's one of those character actors who you've seen for years. He's probably way too old. He's playing the sheriff in this, but he's probably way too old. But yeah, I thought it was. They treat it quite. It's sort of borderline spoof. So there's lots of pop culture references and say Spielberg references and that. And some of the dialogue, it's all done, say, through dialogue and stuff like that. But it works. Some of it's really subtle. Some of it's like, oh, I see what you just did there, kind of thing. Like there's a whole bit about where the sort of dumb sidekick character, who's Denny Danielson, played by David Shackelford, who I looked up, and apparently he's really just sort of mostly played characters who don't have names in a lot of his part, like truck driver or stuff like that. Yeah. And he's great in this. He's like really going for it. I thought he was really good. A little bit like Mater in like Cars and stuff like that. He's kind of like the sort of hick friend who's not that bright, but he's got some of the best moments in the film. Mike Capes as Grant Walker is the sort of lead, so he's kind of more like, okay, here's another film that it made me think of. It was like Shaun of the Dead. So you've got Simon Pegg, who's kind of the straight man, and then you've got Nick Frost sort of doing the sort of dumb jokes and stuff. And the film itself is kind of like Shaun of the Dead in that it's a stupid movie. The whole concept is stupid, but every now and again, it's a bit more gory than you were expecting. So, like, I remember watching Shaun of the Dead and going, Jesus God, there's a lot of gore in this at times. And it's the same with this. It goes some really leans into horror at times, but I wouldn't say so much it's a horror comedy. I think there's horror in it, but it's still more playful than anything else. Caitlin McHugh is love interest Amber. She's really good, and there's a nice sort of romance sort of development between her and Grant Walker.
Yep.
And we've got some other characters. It's quite a small cast. So you don't see many people in it, but I thought they did a really good job. It's too long. It didn't need to be nearly 2 hours long.
So that is definitely true. Yeah,
I think that's one of the issues. Although I was enjoying my time with the characters, including the egg farm lady and stuff like that. Miss McCluskey, or I think McCluskey. Sorry. There's a nice joke. One of the references is, you remember in Jurassic Park the famous shot of the T-Rex and then the banner falling down.
Yeah.
That says when dinosaurs are all dead. So they do a variation of that, but at the chicken farm. So there's like a quick moment where the banner is falling down behind the thing, which I thought was really nice. Yeah, I mean, Invisible Velociraptor sounds really stupid, but then you think, well, people have been making invisible films for years, and nobody gives them any rubbish about it's an easy way to cut back on the budget if you don't have to show the creature. So you just make it it's going to be invisible, and or the person's invisible or whatever. But some of the stuff that they do with the invisibility is really well done. There's some really nice visual effects added in to make it work. I'd say one of the bits I really liked was, as well as say references to Jurassic Park, there's a very explicit reference to E.T. and the little boy's called Elliot and everything. It's like that's like I got a kick out of that. Yeah, really enjoyed it. As I say, I can't wait to see more from the makers of this, the director and the directors, Mikey Hermosa, and Mike Capes, who's Grant Walker. He was one of the writers along with Johnny Wickham. I've never heard of these guys before, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what else they do. I was just bowled over by it, really. I was watching it at like 2:00 in the morning last night, and it's just keeping my attention the whole time.
Oh, that's good for you. Yeah, I don't know, just didn't really sort of grab me as much, but I can see this becoming a sort of staple for, beer and pizza night among certain people. But silly things like watching the CCTV footage of what happened to the dog, and it's got sound, things like that. So just never mind. I'm getting old. But anyway, what are you going to score it?
Oh, this is an 8 for me, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a 6 from me. So definitely mileage will vary on this one, guys. So a 6 from me and an 8 from Rich. Go check it out. Our next film is The Occupant. When Abby, a guilt-ridden engineering geologist in transit from a remote assignment, survives a mysterious helicopter crash, she must try to escape its harsh environment. But she is not alone. Okay, so that's from IMDb. It's their synopsis. I must admit, I did like this. This is a film in 3 parts, basically. So we have a character, Abby, whose sister is dying of cancer back in England. She is desperate to try and raise funds to pay for treatment for her. So she's gone to the sort of the Caucasus Mountains, Caucasus, thank you, to be a prospector looking for is it uranium? I believe it was uranium.
Yeah.
The Russians are going around sort of blowing up mountains and stuff, and she and a number of other geologists are in the area, sort of looking for any sort of rocks that contain uranium, because it's worth a lot of money. So if she struck gold, as it were, it could pay for her sister's treatment, but at the same time, she's away from her sister, and that is sort of adding to the guilt, the fact that she's sort of pushed herself away. Anyway, on the way back, because her sister is in her sort of last sort of stage of remission, or sorry, not last stage of remission, in the last stage of her cancer. So she's decided to go back to England, but her helicopter crashes, and she makes contact with an American pilot who's also been shot down. And she reasons that if she can get to him and get his radio working, then they can both get rescued. So the first half of the film is this sort of survival movie of like her against the elements, trying to get across the mountains to find this lake where this guy is. But she starts sort of suspecting there's something not quite right with the situation as she gets closer and closer. Then we get a completely different part of a film, and then we get another sort of poles apart element to conclude with. I did like this. This did have me engaged all the way through. I'm a sucker for the sort of one person against the odds, against nature kind of thing. So, and it was so beautifully shot, that whole sequence. I was on board. Then it went a bit weird, and then it went very heartfelt at the end. Amanda, what did you make of The Occupant?
I think I'm the opposite of you. I think it was like a really interesting way of looking at like grief and acceptance, and it is very impressive visually. And normally I do like Ella Balinska. I even liked her in that Netflix Resident Evil mess. It did lose its way in the middle, so I think it kind of lost me. But yeah, no, I don't think it was for me.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Absolutely fine. Rich, what did you make of The Occupant?
Yeah, I think I agree with certain elements of what you've said there. I mean, it's shot in Georgia, I think. It's from the Netherlands. But it's kind of like had funding from different places. So
Yeah.
I think so. There's elements of Northern Ireland financing and I can't remember the other areas, but yeah, they shot Georgia. Yeah, so they shot it in Georgia, I think. So I think that's where all the locations are, which are beautifully shot. So it's a good travelogue kind of story, like that. The idea of a single one protagonist against the elements, making a journey, motivated to get back because of somebody, there's a tragic potential outcome or something, and that they're trying to get back to prevent or be there for. That felt like I felt like I'd seen that before, quite probably more than once. So I was a bit like, I feel like I've seen this film before. But then it is so well done in terms. I mean, we've watched films like I think it was The Ledge and stuff of people encountering difficulties and stuff out in the elements. As I say, there's loads of films like that, or The Fall, and it's anything like that. And also playing with reality and what we think is really going on and different stuff. So, which then the film sort of leans into in the second or the second act, yeah, maybe, or third act. It's kind of, it's a film where I kind of feel like I need an ending explained video because I didn't really understand. It's one of those. It was promoted as sci-fi before I watched it, and I was like, oh, interesting, because when I read the description, it doesn't sound sci-fi, and then the sci-fi, you realize the sci-fi element is sort of, it's one of those films where the sci-fi is kind of underplayed.
Yeah. But at the same time, it didn't need it. That element of it didn't really affect the outcome of the film at all.
Well, in terms of, let's say, like Amanda was saying, it is a film ostensibly what the film is really about is grief
Oh, grief, yeah.
and
I mean,
stuff like that, and
absolutely.
coping with those situations and reconciliation and stuff. But the sci-fi element of stuff that happens and who she talked to. By the way, I found out after the fact that the voice on the other end of the
on the radio.
On the radio is Rob Delaney.
Okay.
Whose name is not being so much used in the promotion over here because he's better. He's quite well known, but probably more in America. But I think he's had his own experiences of grief with the loss of a child and stuff. So I think that was probably something that drew him to this particular film. So she's talking on the mic on the radio to this guy, and then it's like you say, something's amiss, and the way that all pans out, I don't really understand it, but then again, maybe I wasn't paying attention as well as I should have, or it's the kind of thing I need, like an explanatory sort of video. It's one of those kind of films where it's kind of playing. It's sort of not overly developing things, leaving things open to your interpretation. Is it? It's more like a Christopher Nolan sort of handling of the themes. How he plays in genre, but he underplays it. How like Tenet is like a sci-fi film, but it sort of actively fights against trying to be a sci-fi film. It's like it plays everything sort of like fairly realistic as much as possible to try and underplay the sort of the real sci-fi trappings of it all. And even in Interstellar he did stuff like that as well. But so one thing I also found after the fact is that this had a short film that preceded it.
All right.
So I guess it's kind of a proof of concept kind of thing, because when you read the description of what the short film is about, unfortunately I didn't get a chance to watch it, it's very different. It's not like they took the short film and elaborated it for this. Yeah. No, what they've done is the short film was actually called The Occupant Prologue, and you read the description of that, and it's a completely different story. So I'm really interested to see how the two fit together, or whether they decided to sort of deviate considerably from what was originally, because say the sci-fi element is more pronounced in the 8-minute short, I believe, which is about a drone operator encountering sort of an alien signal and stuff like that. I believe.
Yeah.
And
yeah. The other film I'll touch on, Amanda, which has a similar theme, was Somnium that we watched last week.
Right, okay.
As well, in that someone is sort of presented with the opportunity to, the perfect life and all the rest of it. And
that made me think of Star Trek. There's a very much a Star Trek element going on here.
Star Trek Generations.
Yes.
The whole Nexus. Oh my god.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So definitely a bit of a different sort of opinion on The Occupant. Amanda, how are you going to score it?
I think probably a 5, because it's well made, it's well acted. It just lost me and never got me back.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey in that you look at how it starts and how it ends up, and especially what happens in the middle. I'm thinking, okay, it's just a bit too weird. But I was, for at least 2/3 of it, I was on board. So I'm giving this one a 6. And Rich,
I'm going to go 6 as well.
Cool. A 5 and 2 6s for The Occupant. Go check it out. Our next review is Unsinkable. In the immediate aftermath of the sinking of the Titanic, a senator launches a subcommittee to investigate the circumstances leading up to and during the tragedy. Meanwhile, a lady journalist is also making inquiries of her own. I must admit, when I saw the the poster for this, I thought this was going to be an asylum film, or maybe a Steve Lawson film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I was quite surprised that this is more of a sort of it doesn't have a lot of money, but it has got a lot of costumes. It has and it's got a decent sort of script in that they do present you with a lot of the detail about what happened to the Titanic. I mean, this is sort of reasonably sort of factual, sort of things they're actually sort of coming out with. I think it makes a bit of a leap when it starts talking about, well, that's why the First World War broke out or something, which comes in sort of towards the end. But it was interesting listening to the facts of what happened and what was going on around the Titanic at the time. But I didn't feel it was a particularly compelling film overall. What did you make of it, Rich?
I really liked it. I thought it's an odd one because it doesn't feel like a movie, like a film. It feels like a TV dramatization, or if like one of those docudramas where they intersperse with interview clips or
Yeah, yeah.
talking heads and stuff like that. So because it doesn't have that element, it's kind of like it's one of those neither fish nor fowl kind of feelings to it.
Mm.
But I have seen films a little bit like this before, but it does feel kind of like its own thing. It's I definitely give it credit for being a Titanic film that's not just retelling the sinking of the Titanic.
Yeah,
It's giving you something different, and I think it does it well. It's selling itself on, they've managed to attract some star names to it. So you got Karen Allen, but she's really only in a couple of scenes, and but we do have Fiona Dourif, who's not a massive name, but she's building her profile.
Mhm.
She's had a few decent roles. Probably still most well known as being the daughter of Brad Dourif, and I think was she in a couple of the Chucky films? I think,
Yeah,
or the
I think she's
DTV
in.
ones. Yeah,
Yeah, she's in like the series and a couple of the films, and
yeah.
I think she played her dad in the series at one point.
Oh yeah, the series.
Yeah.
So the yeah, so she's one of the leads here. We've got a two-pronged narrative where one she's the investigative reporter. I'm curious about how true that is because it's like she's um because she's a woman, she has to write everything under a male pseudonym.
Yeah, yeah.
So people are one they don't really want to talk to her because she's a woman in the first place, and she can't get any recognition as for her writing. But yeah, so that's a whole element to it, and then you've got the guy sort of leading it's that kind of commission investigative, kind of it's like having a film of the God, what's the Hutton Inquiry or whatever it is.
Mhm.
It's a lot of people being interviewed, sitting around tables and having this. But it is quite compelling, quite interesting. They know how to sort of um, when to weave how to weave the story. But you've got to be kind of if prepared that you're not going to get a lot of action. There are flashbacks to what happened, and they do that as within the modest means that they do have. There's a couple of visual effects shots and that, but I thought it was I really liked it. I thought it was novel, sort of quite distinctive, low budget, but they did what as well as they could with the budget, and I think it sort of stands quite well as a Titanic film that enthusiasts. I mean, there's exhibitions running around all the time about Titanic. That if you're interested in it, definitely check it out.
I think it does bring a lot of for the sort of the layman. I think
Mm.
there's a lot of interesting detail in this that many people might not have been aware of. And for most people, it's like, oh yeah, Titanic, it hit an iceberg, and it was a big tragedy, but there was much more sort of to the circumstances surrounding it and whether or not it was avoidable,
Yes.
as well. I mean, it was this sort of like perfect storm of things sort of happening, which kind of led to it.
And the whole
Man,
controversy about who survived and how
yeah,
the amount of life, but
mm,
Bruce Ismay, why was it?
yeah,
Why did he sort of save himself? And
mm.
so they confront that. And
It's interesting
the interesting thing
because
about what they were saying about, like you were saying about the sort of link to war, like that they were going to get, that there was a war is looming, and if they could, impress, then they were going to get this great contract for the warships and stuff, which was why they were trying to push things on a bit far. I don't know how true that is, but that was a sort of an interesting sort of element to it. You do wonder with stuff like this, is it a film with an agenda? Because like there was a Polish air tragedy a few years ago where like the whole like key figures of the government were all killed in this plane crash, and it was probably not a conspiracy or anything, but a conspiracy sort of theory grew up around it. So then a film comes out which perpetuates that sort of about a reporter,
yeah,
sort of
I don't know
investigating
though.
the case.
Yeah, I think a lot of what they come out with here is actually sort of factual stuff.
I do too. Yeah, I think in the fight while I was watching it, I was thinking, but is it using it as like a metaphor for something? It's like it's trying to contradict something that's happening now, or something. But it's not. It's not. It doesn't seem to have any of that. It seems it. I think its heart is in the right place.
Amanda, what did you make of Unsinkable?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm the same as you guys. It's a really interesting angle to take on that story because I don't think I've seen anything that goes into what happened afterwards.
Mm.
It all just seems to be the actual ship going down. And it was interesting to see class divides and like anti-immigrant sentiment sort of still there, even though the ship is gone and it's not really their fault. They're still pushing it. Like there was a bit that was talking about like the rich people that died on there, and then someone had to point out, no, it's actually a lot of poor people and immigrants that died. Yeah, but it did get a bit stodgy at points. So I think you'd probably need like a real interest in the Titanic and the whole story around it to get more out of it. But I did like it.
Yeah, there's a couple of other interesting scenes to do with the senator as well. He gets accosted by this woman who's incredibly racist, very rich and very racist, and doesn't sort of like really sort of hold back, sort of saying there's too many bloody immigrants and all this sort of stuff. I mean that bit of it, yeah, that seemed quite prescient. Not just for the US but also the UK at the moment. And then there was this other sort of younger sort of woman who sort of said, "Oh, just ignore her" and all this sort of stuff. That was kind of interesting as an aside. But yeah, it's an interesting one in that the sort of detail that's coming out with there was another thing. I think it was either a French or a Russian ship that was nearby that just totally ignored the SOS. Not our problem. Yeah. The other thing as well I learned on QI is that there was never ever a rule that said women and children first in any situation. It's just that was a decision they made on the Titanic itself. But there's nothing to sort of stop anyone from just jumping onto a thing. But there you go. How are we going to score it? Over to Rich.
I am gonna. Oh, yeah. It's for me. It's bordering on 8 because I think it's definitely a film I'd revisit. But I'm gonna go 7.
Okay, and Amanda?
Yeah, I'm the same, 7. But yeah, I mean, it kept me like entertained throughout it.
Yeah,
there was a lot of talking, but I did like it. I liked seeing everything from that angle, and it is well made too.
It was well made, and yeah, I have to agree with both of you. Yeah, okay then. 3 sevens for Unsinkable. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Howl at the Dead. When a family moves into a haunted house, their loyal pet dog struggles to protect them from the ghosts that only animals can see. interesting one. This in that there's a feature film coming out very shortly called Good Boy, which is a horror film taken from the perspective of the pet dog, which is kind of what we get here. Although it's not just the dog; it's the cat and the parrot as well. The bit with the parrot, I thought, was probably the best bit of the film. Not just the bit where it suddenly goes, "Why are you in my house?" which I thought was great. That gave me chills. But also the bit where the sheet covering the cage suddenly flies off. I thought that was an excellent sort of moment. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. What did you make of it, Amanda?
Oh, I never managed this one.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. But now that I know that there's a bit with a parrot, now I need to watch it.
It's definitely worth seeing. What do you make of this one, Rich?
Yeah, I was at first thinking, oh, is this like the proof of concept before they made the Good Boy film? But it seems to be completely unrelated. It's completely unrelated. This was made by a guy called Greg Bishop in 2023, and the new film is by a completely different team. I thought it's 8 minutes long. I thought it worked its concept really well. The idea of sort of the animals can see it, and that works really well. And as you say, with the parrot, that's a really clever idea. It's like, so they can see them, but they can not only see them, but they can also hear them. And because the parrot repeats
everything it said, yeah,
it gives voice on our plane of existence to the to the undead, so to the ghosts, which I thought was very clever. I don't know if I've not seen that. It's quite possibly been used elsewhere, but I know that voices have come through like static and all that sort of thing.
Radios and all that. Yeah,
yeah.
No, I thought it felt novel. Yeah,
yeah. And as you say, the use of sheets and stuff is done really well. The animals. Say this is quite a low budget production, but they've worked a lot of angles in it, and they've added it. Say they've got the cat. The cat can see what's going on, but really
it doesn't give
care.
a shit, does it? Yeah,
which is good. And the stuff with the dog, and he finds the bones, whatever. And you put it puts the pieces together of what's going on.
Yeah,
very, very economically, very well, and it's a good contained story. Really well developed concept, and I don't know how they feel about this other movie coming out with essentially the same idea. Although I think this plays it with like a humorous dimension. Although it's fairly straight, but it's a haunted house story with the humorous. Whereas this other one looks like it's a bit more of an intense, serious kind of take on it. So definitely. I do recommend this. I think it's really interesting. Really
absolutely. Yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed this one. We don't score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out. And therefore, you will find a link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Perfect Target. A soldier, now a mercenary, has been brought to a foreign country by a former associate to aid in the security of that country's president. But it appears that he's been set up as a patsy to take the fall for the president's assassination. We've got some interesting names in this one. We've got Brian Johnson, we've got Robert Englund, and of course we've got Daniel Bernhardt. You're watching this and you're thinking, why isn't he in more leading roles, basically?
Yeah, I think that was it.
I mean, he's certainly sort of, he could definitely go toe to toe with Jean-Claude Van Damme. I think, and he's a bit easier.
Well, I think he did. I think he did go toe to toe with. Literally,
I'm sure he did
have a fight once.
I'm sure he did. Yeah, but he should have had that sort of stature. But there you go.
Yeah, I think a lot of the I think a lot of the direct-to-video stuff he was getting in the 90s was like, oh well, we couldn't get Van Damme, so we'll just get the other guy, even though he's nothing like him. Which I think maybe hindered it a bit.
Yeah, I think so. But he's very good here. I mean, he has a great fight at the beginning of the film, sort of bar fight. Uh, he doesn't really sort of get much more until towards the end, but basically, yeah, he's there to sort of beef up security for this new president. Not realizing that he's being set up. He should have realized, really, especially since Brian Thompson and Robert Englund are knocking around the place. There's sort of shady CIA guys. I should have realised it's been set up. But there you go. Yeah, then it sort of drifts into sort of 50-50 territory, doesn't it? I think the
Yeah, definitely.
Robert Hayes and Peter Weller one. Yeah, I did like this. Yeah, it was very good. Very, very solid little film. Thoroughly enjoyable. We found a reasonable copy on Amazon Prime. If you're a subscriber, you'll find one. There are others on Tubi and YouTube, I think. I take it you'd seen this one before, Amanda?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a bit of a Bernhardt fan, so I've seen most of them. But I mean, story-wise, it's a bit all over the place, but I like it. It's fun. It's surprising that he ends up on the sides of the rebels, though. It's like it's a 90s action film, and he's normally that's not what happens. I think Robert Englund and Brian Thompson, they like really eat it up as this kind of brains and brawn bad guy duo, which is fun. And I'm pretty sure Chad Stahelski did a lot of the action as well, so that's maybe why that works so well.
I tell you what really did work was the sound effects.
Yeah,
they really did work those, the explosions and the gunshots and everything. It came across really, really well in this.
yeah. It's for like a little DTV film. It's well made. I think it was shot on location in somewhere in South America as well. So yeah.
Nice. What do you make of this one, Rich? Had you seen it before?
I saw it way back when, because say I was a Bernhardt fan back in the day, and I think he was he was doing well on films of a certain budget, but kind of got pushed out because by the time films like this are being made, Van Damme and Seagal and that are entering the DTV market, and the guys like him and Jeff Speakman and whatever, they kind of bow out, or the roles just aren't there for him. So, but where things get interesting here is that this is kind of one of the films on the road to the 8711. It's all proto that, because as has already been mentioned, Chad Stahelski worked on this. He was a fight coordinator. He'd already worked with Bernhardt twice previously on Bloodsport 3 and True Vengeance. True Vengeance was one I particularly liked. Very low budget, but I did enjoy that. There was a lot of sort of John Woo sort of jumping around with two guns and stuff in that one. But also David Leitch. This was the first one where David Leitch was on board a Bernhardt film, and Leitch would eventually be cast as the lead in a short film that Daniel Bernhardt wrote and directed, which was called Fetch, which you can find online. They were made around 2007. So this was kind of the first film where all three guys, as far as I'm aware, from checking like credits and everything, this was the first film where all three guys were on the same project, and eventually, say, Chad and David would do 8711, and Daniel Bernhardt would come on board and play a significant role with particularly Nobody, and turning what's his name? Oh God, I've forgotten his name. Yeah, Bob Odenkirk, making him into a believable action guy. And actually, Daniel Bernhardt appears in Nobody and Nobody 2 as different characters. As well, which I thought was quite interesting. So he kind of edged away, and then he was. He turned up in stuff like The Matrix Reloaded and stuff, which was great. Which again, I think like Chad and David were involved in those films as well, in the early days. So he did a lot of stunt work and stuff. So he's always been around, which was great. But he kind of came from this modeling background and stuff, and just got cast. He did do martial arts, but he got cast in Bloodsport 2 because he does look a bit like Van Damme and stuff. So yeah, he occupies an interesting place in that sort of in action, both past and present. And this film, I think, sort of sits in quite an interesting place. Having Robert Englund running around with a machine gun is interesting because that's not, I'm sure he's done other roles in action and stuff. I mean, he didn't just do horror, because obviously he did sci-fi and stuff. But the only other thing that comes to mind for me is when he was in The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, where he's playing this crazy English guy in sort of fetish gear. And he was really good in that. But here he's yeah, like you say, CIA bad guy kind of thing, sort of orchestrating stuff together with Brian Thompson. Now, I'm going to rattle on a bit more because Brian Thompson, this film was directed by Sheldon Lettich, who directed AWOL and stuff like that, which AWOL Brian Thompson was in. But their history goes back to a short film called Firefight, which they made in 1986, in which also starred Frank Dukes, who Bloodsport's
supposedly based
Bloodsport
on,
was based on. Yeah, so he was the main character. His life story sort of inspired that, apparently. His version of events, anyway.
Citation needed. Yep.
Yeah. So this kind of is also sitting in an interesting place from that perspective, in that it's a film that's come from the mid 80s, and pre Bloodsport to post Bloodsport, and in towards the sort of 87-11 world. Brian Thompson, I really like. He's played the lead a few times. He was in a film called Hired to Kill with Oliver Reed, but he's played a lot of supporting.
Well, he had a good run on the X-Files as well.
Yes, well, he was one of the heavies, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he was an alien Terminator character, basically.
Right, yeah. Which is interesting because he was in a couple of, again, his physique and that, he resembles Arnold Schwarzenegger a bit. People cast him as Arnold alikes and stuff, and he was actually in the Terminator. He's one of the punks.
Yes,
along with
Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton, that gets killed in that. So so Firefight is worth a look. It's like a Vietnam film that David Kurzol, who's known as Viking Samurai on YouTube, he did an interview with Sheldon Lettich, and I think that's where he got a copy of the short, and so he posted that on his channel. So that's worth seeing. So Perfect Target's not amazing. I didn't like it much back then, but I can see more in it now, and I enjoyed it more. It's your standard El Presidente movie, trying to, the A-Team, the Expendables, they've all done these kind of stories where there's dodgy people trying to control South America and stuff, and like you say, 50-50.
The Expendables, isn't it, as well? The whole thing, They swap out Robert Englund for Eric Roberts. You got the Expendables basically.
Yeah.
I do like Daniel Bernhardt a lot.
I'm
not sort of very familiar with his earlier work, but for example, he was in Skyline 3. And he has a brilliant end fight in that. He's one of the bad guys, so he loses obviously, but he has a great fight in that film. Really sort of raised that. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
As his profile is sort of getting bigger in the last 10 years or so, it does seem to be like bad guy roles are the ones that he was sort of getting a lot of. Which is just funny because he started out, he was always the hero. He kind of came out of the gate with all these hero roles, and now he's much more the the baddie. I mean, I think he had a big showdown with Jason Statham in Parker, I think it was, and he's done various other films have sort of raised his profile again, coming back via the stunt community back into sort of back into the mainstream. So he's now much better known, really, than he even was back in when he was a leading man.
Yeah.
Because of say nobody raised his profile so much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was doing all the promotion with Bob Odenkirk and whatever. He was, all the Good Morning America kind of stuff and that. So so I think a lot of people who only know him for that are like, oh, so he was like a leading hero, and now he's back playing a hero in Deathstalker.
Yeah.
Which is on the cusp of release. So that'll be quite interesting.
Lots of people excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it.
Absolutely.
Really excited. Just because I was kind of hoping somebody would pick up Deathstalker, because there's a lot of good stuff in those movies, but some of it is, especially that first one, some of it is not aged well. But I really like Kostansky. I think he's got the right kind of sense of humor for it, and he loves all that kind of like 80s practical stuff as well.
Yeah, the trailer looked really good actually for this. So,
yeah,
hopefully we'll get to see it.
Yeah, I've never seen any of the Deathstalker films.
No,
but
I've seen the first one.
The second one's pretty good.
Yeah, because the certification for the sequels, because the first one came out, had an 18 certificate, which sort of made it a bit more sort of edgy for people renting, and then they went down to like a 15 for the next ones. I was like, that'll be like Conan the Destroyer then.
But the continuity and stuff apparently is all over the place.
Oh, it's all over the place. Yeah.
I've watched Rob Hill, the Bad Movie Bible. He did an episode of his Borrowing Blockbusters documentary series about barbarian movies and Conan-sploitation, which is, if anyone hasn't seen it or isn't subscribed to his channel and isn't watching all of his documentaries, well worth seeing, because he goes into such depth, and he sort of picks up all these amazing observations and stuff of his latest one was about Maxploitation. It's actually a two-parter.
Right.
But he's covered lots of topics, but this one and Deathstalker and whatever is particularly interesting, the way he breaks it all down. And and Steve Kostansky, I have enjoyed. I say we watched his Frankie Frico film recently, and that sort of split the team a bit on thoughts on that one. But so it'll be interesting to see what the tone and stuff is going to be of this new Deathstalker. So so great to see Daniel Bernhardt back in a leading role.
Yeah, a lot of people very excited for that one coming up. Right, so that is the end of this week's show. So thanks, guys, for covering these films. I mean, there was a lot, some really good ones in there, though. So that's really cool. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and X and Blue Sky at the DTV Digest and at the Short Shots. Also, as mentioned at the beginning of the show, check out some of Amanda's writing for Eastern Kicks, and we'll put a link to that in the footnotes. Other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.